Well, good day. I was just going to add to Carl Jung's commentary for the Golden Flower. But before I do, something just came up which was absolutely, I think, apropos and interesting. So, why do we use these terms, Sanskrit and otherwise, and why do they seem so important? And yet, why do they tend to not teach as intended? Give you an example. Retreat this weekend with Bhikkhu Bodhi. Now, for whatever reason, we are teaching it, but we're not really going into it in great depth. So, what am I talking about? So, he's teaching a section of text in Pali, Sanskrit, Pali. It's almost identical. And it's teaching about suffering, the source of suffering, right? Birth is suffering and death is suffering. So, it uses three terms: kama, tanha, uh, bhava tanha, and vibhava tanha. And translated, and I understand why, but translated as craving, sensual craving, somatic craving, or craving for the physical experience. Then there's bhava tanha. They say it's craving for existence. And then finally, vibhava tanha as craving for non existence. Now, I want to explain why this is missing in two ways. One, tanha is thirst. Thirst. Think of it as thirst or craving or attachment or lobha, uh, attachment, clinging. But think thirst. So first, kama, tanha. Kama being somatic or physical or sensory experience. So attachment to the physical or the sensory, or even the mental, psychological feelings, Vedanta, tone, Vedana, tone. So tanha is thirst, kama, tanha, thirst or attachment, right? Craving, attachment, right? And bhava tanha. So tanha being thirst and an attachment, bhava being not just existence, but any state, any collection, any aggregate, any group. So, bhava tanha, attachment to existence itself, to being, to existing, again, to the self, right? It goes a little further to say that self and anything self interacts with or could interact with is maya, is illusion. So, finally, the bhava tanha, translated as desire or craving for non existence. Well, here's where a mistake comes in on two levels. One, vibhava. Okay, it can just mean a collection, a specific collection. But when we really look at va, what we're looking at is a separation or a distinction. And the example that I use is Vihara from the Brahma Vihara. Vihara breaks down to hara as in, I'm being fast and loose with the grammar here, but think of Vihara as in a house, as in a hut, a hovel, even a hara. Now, Vihara is a temple, right? So if you look at the definitions, I highly recommend wisdomlibrary.org. It's wisdomlib.org. You can look up these definitions and you can see that, especially when it comes to Sanskrit and Pali, there isn't a single word for many of these ideas. Now, when you go a little deep, you get an idea of vibhava can mean, in a Buddhist context, very specifically, an enlightenment sort of idea. But when you go again and look at the goal here, and if you read further the sutra that we're quoting here, we're talking about cessation. This is a word, nirodha. This is our actual goal by achieving cessation. So, not clinging to kama, tanha, not thirsting for the physical, the sensory, the somatic experience, not thirsting or clinging or attaching to existence, being, objects, anything. And finally, bhava, tanha. So not having a thirst for the cessation of all the above. So remember, in the Heart Sutra, I recommend it because it's the heart of the teaching, all in one. So here's the idea of, right, there is no attachment. Right? If you use a boat to cross a river, you don't carry the boat with you once you've crossed. So we're reminding twofold that one, it's cease your craving or thirst for existence, birth, death. Why? Because the sensory experience, the somatic experience is all inherently suffering, dissatisfying, and leads to this birth, death, rebirth cycle. But most importantly, you can't cling to attainment or attach to this outcome because inherently the goal of cessation requires that you cease your clinging and your attachment to any sort of goal or outcome. So I thought I would just share that. It's an important understanding. Kamatanha, Bhavatanha, and Vibhavatanha. Same as Nirvana. I mean, you are well served to understand that karma itself is a word to snuff, as in a candle, right? To snuff out. Right? So again, this idea of cessation. Right? So nirvana, whether you agree that it's a separate state here or otherwise or both, you can agree that the initial goal is to reach a level of cessation that hopefully utter and complete total cessation, Nirodha, can lead to nirvana. Not a goal, not a destination, just a simple fact that just like life is inherently dissatisfying because of these same attachments, tanha, this thirst, at the same time, to conquer that same thirst is itself the liberation. This is why we say that we're already complete, because you don't have to remove something to achieve this liberation. You have to cease, either being ignorant of your already perfected state or cease clinging or attachment, everything we've just discussed today. So it was completely missed. This idea of not thirsting for non-attachment is the same idea that we see every day. Practitioners searching for a certain level or a certain achievement. Same can be said for charity or benevolence, right? Jeez, never thought of that. Yeah, in French, bénévole means a volunteer, but there you go. There's another English word. Comes from French. Benevolent, bénévole, means to give of oneself freely without hope of repayment or, you know what I mean? This idea, right? Because if we're all part of one system greater than ourselves, this idea of equanimity, then it's not something we do for a reward. It's doing what we're supposed to do. Same as like I guess convoluted, but tried to explain the idea that since we're already Buddha nature, since we're already complete, since we're already perfected nature, all we need to do is to let go of these labels, these biases, these yeah, it's what I've talked about. It's faith with doubt, right? Understanding that you may not be what you seem. So, on that, have a great day.